Morality.
Tonight, we put some chest hair on Valentine's Day by taking a look at Wyatt Earp. Then we shave it all off with an appropriately timed and themed episode of 1923, and conclude tonight's discussion with another appropriately themed Rules of Acquisition. All this coming up right now on The Wright-Up Brothers. And welcome back to the best place to be on Tuesday night. I am, of course, your host, P.D. York, joined, as always, by the ever-so-lovely Pollo Zapatos, Corione Witch in Residence, and, of course, H. Marie. Welcome, everybody. We've got quite a packed show this evening, and, of course, we'll go ahead and start with the made-up sort of pseudo-controversy behind Hogwarts Legacy. Now, before we get into the game itself, of course, we'll just go ahead and take a little quick brief moment to clarify some things. First of all, on this channel, we are all about consenting adults living their lives how they see fit within the respect of consent of all the other consenting adults. You feel that you need to make a change like that in your life, you go right ahead. That is your business. However, everybody on this show is treated like an equal. Nobody is necessarily more special or valuable than anybody else, except for me, of course, but that's beside the point. However, the thing is, people are allowed to have opinions, and they're allowed to have opinions, and if they don't like you for whatever reason, they're allowed to. And so, it's really not okay when you're trying to make a statement to go out of your way to harass people that are just trying to enjoy a game in a series. I mean, I don't care if I happen to agree with you or not. If I see that shit, I look at any kind of political movement or any kind of whatever you stand for, and I go, I don't care, because you're an asshole. And I expect nothing less to be treated towards me or anybody else on this particular program. So, if there's anything else anyone would like to touch on the controversy real quick, speak now, or we move on.
Yeah, just real quick, look, personally speaking, I disagree with Rowling on her approach to the issues. I think she's just doesn't have an appropriate understanding of statistics. I believe that she has every right to be wrong. But I think part of the problem is because she's been backed into such a corner, she's been doubling down, and that's the major issue. That being said, I 100% support the hundreds of people that worked tirelessly to try to get this game off the ground and really tried to make it a love letter to something that they truly enjoy. We could easily say that for millennials, Hogwarts Legacy, or the Hogwarts series in general, the Harry Potter books, are their Star Wars. And you know what? If we found out suddenly that George Lucas was a terrible human being, I could see that being conflicting. But I also understand that, I much rather would support the people that are, putting forth the effort.
Hold on now. George Lucas did give us Jar Jar, so I mean, we did kind of already. We already had this. We already did this. We went through this phase as Star Wars fans.
Fair enough, but I'm just, I say let people enjoy what they want to enjoy. I say, you may have your issues with an author, and that's completely okay, but separate the author from the work. It's a completely reasonable human being thing to say, look, I'm not a big fan of the writer, but I love the material.
I don't have any negative opinion about The Stand, even though I think Stephen King really is just full of himself. So, right. Yeah, I totally agree. And I'm the same way. Like, it's like, don't...
Here's the thing I think a lot of people don't seem to, like, I have, like, 2 big points. Like, number one, like, you're doing the exact same things that, like, the worst versions of Christians do, where, like, they back people so far into a corner that they either double down or they hate them, which just ruins everything. But then you're also doing, like, the worst version of, like, the atheist argument against the only Christian in the room, where they just back them into a corner until they just love their faith until they can't. So, like, you're like when you back people into corners, you're just making them what they are worse, or they hate you, so they're just going to attack you more. And I think one of the biggest things that, like, you have to remember is you're attacking a writer, somebody who already doesn't spend time getting to know the diversities of people because they don't like people. They like being shut-ins and being private and being completely, like, on their own. Like, we do this show from...
I wouldn't know anything about what you just said.
Yeah,
it's all totally correct.
Like, yeah, I was about to say, like, that was a pretty decent dig at Petey there, John.
It's all true, but yeah.
It's not even a dig. It's just that's what good writing, like, that's where it comes from, is somebody who spends time alone in their own thoughts. Because you can't come up with good writing while you're busy trying to have 15 conversations with 30 friends about Friday night.
I'd rather just have 15 conversations with myself. They're better anyway.
Right, and you control all of them and you can write them. And I think that's, like, the biggest, like, issue here is, like, if you're going to pick any of the religions to, like, follow in this terms of how do they do it as an organization, it's the Mormons. Like, spread your literature, share your truth, but also accept that a lot of people are going to close the door in your face because they don't have time to learn about that stuff right now. They're busy.
Well, yeah, and that's just basic decency.
You're asking people to just suddenly understand your entire life problems as if they barely understand their own. Like, we're still all trying to barely get to therapy, and you're all asking us to also understand what therapy taught you tomorrow, yesterday. Like, when we wrote books,
I don't know.
Writings. Like, yes, we should get there. Yes, we should be able to, like, understand the woes of our fellow person, but also none of us have the money for that.
Maybe we should, be respectful or something.
Get there. Yeah, exactly. Like that's what I say. Do as the Mormons
John,
do. Like,
I'm
they
gonna
don't buy things they don't want, and they also don't shove it down your throat. Like, I'm pretty sure Coca-Cola.
Well, these days.
See, I disagree with that. Hold on.
Let's let Corion get his counterpoint in.
A fair bit. Whole piece has always been that religion is very similar to male genitalia. It's wonderful when it's wonderful to have, but you shouldn't be shoving it down people's throats without consent. And I do consider somebody coming to my and trying to sell me on their religion to be shoving it down my throat.
And that's going to come down to
I
personal.
disagree with you on that.
But
that's also going to come down to personal preference,
the nice thing about the LGBTQI plus community is they're not trying to convert you. They're just trying to show you like what they're actually talking about. Because I don't think any LGBTQI plus person has actually like a story that can be condensed to 5 minutes on Fox or CNN. I think their stories need a pamphlet or two. And so like if you're gonna, copy one of the Christian groups,
and at the end
the Mormon thing, which is
even then
share
though
your message, but share it nicely, and also respect that not everybody's gonna just jump on board or have time to hear it today.
You have to respect the rights of people to not listen to you. That's where freedom of speech
and that's
ends.
why it should always be like, hey, here's the real truth about what's going on with us. We just want to share our message. Oh, you don't want to hear? All right, have a good day. Right.
Yeah, see, and that's the problem here with Hogwarts Legacy and these other, these idiots specifically with this. They're attacking people.
Way to just make people feel guilty for having fun. Like we don't even have the money to
wait a minute.
A lot of things,
guys,
and you're going to take video games away from us because the author of the original content has a personal opinion that isn't reflected throughout the content.
Whoa, guys, are you saying that this piece about, witchcraft and wizardry is being attacked by a moral majority? Well, Mike's happened in the history of humanity.
Every of the time.
History doesn't repeat, it runs.
Let me ask you a question, Corion. I want to ask you a serious kind of... I want to ask you serious.
First.
Okay, you've had your time. I want to ask Corion I want to ask you a serious question, kind of personal, but it's not like that personal. Did you ever think in your life that not only would you sit on a panel with a messianic Christian mystic, but this same person was actually going to defend a Harry Potter video game with you on that panel? Like, I see what you're saying.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be honest with you, and this is 100% my truth here. I always wanted to do a show where I had some people of very different cultural and religious backgrounds on the same show, where we were able to, potentially find common ground on some things, and on other things, we're like, I respect your opinion, but you're just wrong, and that's how it is.
Well, it also makes for good when we get into it, though, too.
I've always wanted to be part of something like that. Right. I just never expected that it would be over a video game or a book series that uses the term witchcraft without actually having any witchcraft involved in it. I mean, that's where I'm at, man.
It's a crazy world, crazy life. But I mean, it's ridiculous. Now, we've spent more than enough time on this because I honestly think, I'm still of the opinion some of the controversy is contrived. A lot of this stuff, when you get a big game release or you get something, they did the same thing with Star Trek Discovery Season 1 when Jason Isaacs was like, I don't want racists watching this show. And it's like, I don't think you're in touch with reality, pal, but that's okay. Most people aren't. So, yeah, it's ridiculous. But I'm coming from somebody who's never actually watched any of the movies all the way through, who's only read like maybe a couple of chapters of the book and didn't even bother with the rest. And so we actually do have some footage here that we can go ahead and put onto the screen. And this is from some of my playthroughs. I had a friend of mine that was kind enough to give me access so that I could actually experience it myself on my console without having to use my wife's. So that was very appreciated. I gotta say, I'm actually quite impressed. This is a very gorgeous game. And the gameplay, from what I got, especially the combat, I'm kind of sad it doesn't have a multiplayer component because I was starting to get good at the combat, and I was like, this would be more fun against people. Overall, I give this game, from what I've played, just as is, a solid 7. There's a lot of different interactions, even there's some side quest stuff I got into. Arende says, hello, people. Arende, welcome. Glad you're here.
Remember,
And
it's 7 out of 7, 'cause that's our scale.
right,
7
yeah,
out of
we
10.
haven't said a solid 7 in a minute, but it's quite the game. I think some new stability patches came out, which would be great, because twice when I streamed this game, it crashed. So, that was kind of weird. You know, just all of a sudden the stream abruptly ends, and I'm like, jeez, I don't even want to bother going out on Twitter explaining, because it is what it is. But I do look forward to playing more of it in the future. I think it's absolutely worth. I mean, Hannah dropped. I think you got the super special awesome. Okay, go ahead.
So, yeah, I never pay full price for a video game, ever. I always look for a deal. I buy them on a sale. I do whatever I can to save a buck, right? Yeah, no, I am so happy that I dropped $75 on this game. I got the 72-hour early access. I got some extra exclusive content for doing that. And I am in love with this game. I have seen all the movies multiple times. I have read the books multiple times. I was a huge Harry Potter fan. And this game, it's not Harry Potter though. It's the actual wizarding world that they live in, but takes place. I think it's set in the early 1900s, I think. And it's just, I think a lot of people either like it or hate it because it's not Harry Potter. But that's the point: is it's not supposed to be Harry Potter. You're supposed to be having your own adventures, your own stories, and just literally go out and run around and explore this world. Its map is massive. I've barely explored an inch of it, and I'm honestly, I'm gonna play it after we're done here. Not gonna lie. Like I'm almost addicted as I was to Sims 4 when it first came out. And if anyone knows me, I love me some Sims. So the fact that I'm playing this over Sims is huge.
Yeah, I've started getting onto it on my not streamable service, and I'm going to be picking up for a streamable service because I want to do a live stream playthrough. And honestly, I don't know. I've enjoyed it. I love the combat system. I thought the switching through spells was very intuitive. I thought the gameplay mechanics were really solid. I haven't gotten to too many moral choices yet, but I can definitely tell they're coming, and that you're going to have to decide what kind of person you want to be when you're playing this.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll be honest, I'm usually going to do the a-hole playthrough because that's just how I love to play through these kind of games. Like I'll give you a perfect example. When I was playing through Black and White, there's a scene where, if for those who don't know, in Black and White, you're playing as a god, and there's this one scene where the two of your worshippers are offering you either this huge stack of grain that the village put together or their only son as sacrifice. And my solution to that was to sacrifice the parents, because how dare they do that to their own son? That's the kind of morality I tend to play these games with. And I'm looking forward to being able to apply that kind of, left-handed morality to this thing, because I think this is the perfect spot to play around with that.
Yeah. Have you gotten a chance to fly around yet?
Yeah, a little bit. I'll be honest with you, I'm not super down on the flight. I'm more of a teleportation person.
You're just mad. You're just mad because they don't have your little chopper bike broom yet.
Well, yeah, right.
Don't they have fast travel?
Yeah, they have by flue powder, which you basically transport through a fireplace. So they do have a quick travel, but they don't have, or at least not yet, a teleportation, which I'm trying to remember. It's called apparating. But actually, since you're a 5th year, you technically haven't learned it yet, because I don't think you learn it till your 6th year, if I remember my trivia correctly. So
yeah, if I remember correctly, the rule was
okay. This scene you just saw happen. This was something else. I was very impressed with this particular transition, because what you're doing, so what happens is you're looking in a mirror and you see yourself and the guy you're with in that room, and when you touch it, you get teleported. But this transition's totally seamless, and it's little stuff like this. The artwork of this game is totally on a different level. I mean, it seems very true to the universe based off of what I can look at and gauge with the trailers and look at other pictures. But it's just such detail was taken. This is a huge moment in gaming history. I'm not going to undersell it or downplay this fact. Like, this is not a small moment. This is huge for many reasons. For those who don't know, I did beta test the Halo Infinite campaign, and while there was a lot of labor of love put in that game, we just finally got it completed in, like, almost 11 months later, and even still it has problems.
Yeah.
Now, there's a few different factors that go into a game like that, but even just taking the campaign factor of Hidden Infinite and comparing it to a game like this is what happens when developers give a shit. This is what happens when a team is put together to put out a product that is going to really bring the excitement and really bring the hype. And that's really telling about how the fans care, because they just want to enjoy the world. They just want to enjoy the universe. The whole point of the universe is escapism. And so that's why, not to go too much into what I was just saying earlier, and I'm not going to, bring that up again, but this is the other reason why you just don't attack fandoms. Because you're attacking what we use to get out of reality, or to get out of, whatever current reality we're in. So, of course, it's not going to stick. And
What?
I'm not even a fan. I like this game. I'm looking forward to playing more.
See, to me, like, this is like my favorite thing about writing and movies and everything that like fiction makes possible, is like, this was a whole world that was written in books and then adapted to movies, but then created for you to experience on your own as a person, like in the digital universe. Like that, to me, I feel like that's what writing is all about. And like, yeah, it's a bummer that like some people are like way too vocal about their opinions, and to the point where it like seems borderline mean. That doesn't denigrate that they created a world that you can then make better.
Right.
Like, that's what these gamers are giving you the chances. Like, if you're really mad at the Harry Potter universe because of the writer, well, now it's your chance to go into it and be a part of it and change it for the better according to you.
Make your own
And
experience.
this is the closest you're ever going to get to it,
Yeah.
Because it is fiction. So you can rewrite it.
Yep.
And here's your chance.
Absolutely.
And honestly, let's be clear too. This is, how awesome is it that we've gotten to that another franchise, like a post 80s franchise, got to the point where it was big enough that we could have other authors writing in that universe. It's a really rare thing that we get that far along.
Yeah. And think about this, like, just watching this, it's like giving me chills, because I've been replaying Skyrim and not Battlefield 4, but Fallout 4 recently. And there's a bunch of graphics updates, and they're really good, but they're nothing compared to this. And like supposedly the world's on par with, like, I don't know if it's Skyrim, but I heard it's like close to Elden Ring big.
Yeah.
Which is pretty huge. And like Harry Potter, though, like, for all the people that read the books and loved the books, like, this is
I'm so happy for all the fans right now.
Imagination come to life. Maybe not to the full freedom yet, but if you guys buy into this tells the people that paid for this to be made on a whim that it's worth paying more for it. And then number 2 comes out and it's 6th year, and like you said, teleportation and stuff. Like,
there's
obviously
a rumor.
The people that made this loved this so much, because look at the care. Like, show them that it's worth them doing it again with a bigger budget.
Well, guys, there is a rumor that this is actually a backdoor pilot for a TV series.
That, dude, could you imagine this as a games as a service with a TV series, weekly DLCs coming up? Like, not pay for it, obviously, that would be grotesque. But like, if you get weekly DLCs with the episodes and like challenges to go along with it, that would be the most crazy fourth wall bending experience I could imagine.
Oh,
I think that's what Paramount's
we could be
trying
looking
to do.
At a future where, yeah, I mean, like, look, honestly, we could be looking at a future here, because this is HBO, right? We could be looking at a future where they release a DLC a weekly episode, and the episode changes based on the path the players took in that DLC.
Yeah, that's...
Dude, they could do it even better. They could start having an NPC that starts showing up in the game, and you can't really interact with him, but you can follow him. And then suddenly, like, as the show goes on, you can start to, like, see what he was actually doing that you couldn't see. Like, he would go into rooms and they'd be locked for a minute, and then you'd see him come out, and you'd be like, what? Why was there an unbreakable door there for a minute? And you just don't know. But then when you go back after watching the episode, you can actually find the note that he read in the episode, and you can get, like, hints to what comes next or to what's going on. And it just makes it a full, like, 4D experience.
Well, I think meta experience is what it would be. And I mean,
There's
that
a
would...
lot of potential for the future here.
Yeah. Yeah,
I say
absolutely.
4D because it's time. Like, you get to go back in time to the time that he was there in the episode, and you get to go examine the room yourself because you're not constrained by time.
You don't get to feel it or smell it, though. So, I mean, except for what you make up in your mind.
Yeah, I think that's, like, higher dimension sensation.
That's okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'm not doing this debate right now. Yeah, no, it's a great game. If you're a Harry Potter enthusiast, I think you'll enjoy it. If you're a video game enthusiast, you'll definitely enjoy it. I don't care for Harry Potter personally, but I've got nothing but good things to say about this game. But I think we've said all we need to on this, unless anyone's got any last bits they want to say.
No, but I am going to take this segue to plug Thursday's Rogue Council because the world be crazy lately. If ghosts and aliens are your thing, Thursday night, tune in.
Pop that link in the chat, and yeah, we'll Corione is really struggling for subscribers right now, so definitely want to keep getting the.
Why, thank you.
Yeah.
That being said, we are
actually
on a steady incline. Mucho appreciate everybody who's been joining.
Yeah. Thank you everybody for your support. Actually, we are giving away a couple of honorary accesses to our Discord. So if you stay through the end of the channel, you subscribe, and you send us an email to thewriterbrothers@gmail.com. It's going to have to be after the show. So if you send an email now, it's not going to happen. But if you send it after the show, you'll get Discord access where you can watch us post stuff about, I give extra opinions, I make show notes, and you also get to see the crap that we like to eat. So
and we do a little bit of background stuff. Like for this Rogue Council, we're going to be talking about the Chronovisor, which is a kind of a weird, deep lore dive into the Vatican secret archives. So
give you access to what we're going to talk about sometimes.
Yeah, we do. We even check with you guys and take advice and suggestions from you guys.
That's right. So you join the TWB community, you might even get to influence some of the content. Actually, one of our community members, Arende, who's in the chat right now, recommended a fantastic book to us, and so we read it, we reviewed it. And but gotta wait till the end of the stream, and it's first come first serve. Two honorary memberships tonight. With Valentine's Day, I figured we'd kick it up to 11 on the manliness factor and watch one of the greatest westerns ever made. Now, what I mean by the greatest western is that, well, it's just a great movie altogether, but this is the movie that I personally, because I do like westerns. I enjoy them on occasion, and so it's definitely fair to say that I enjoy them a lot more than probably most everybody else in this panel. But this is the western that I tell people to watch if you don't like westerns, because it's actually a really cool movie, and it gives a very good historical account of the actual Wyatt Earp. Now, for those who are unfamiliar, Wyatt Earp kind of became a bit of a folklore legend hero in history, in that he was definitely given some sort of, you could say, legendary godlike status for a time. And that he was a big, lawman and taking out the bad guys, and just, you know, the usual, you hear about the folklore heroes who are drummed up to be more than they actually are. This movie does a very good job of actually showing us who the man was. And as it turns out, like all legends, he's a human too. And that's what we get to see. But we still get to see some of the actual legendary gunfights that he had that made him who he was, and all the stuff that he was known for and what his reputation was built up on. Those things did also happen. It's not like his whole story was fiction. It's just, there was a time in human history when we have our folklore and our heroes make sure that they fit whatever specific morals of the time that we need them to. And so, certain infidelities and certain indulgences, well, those kind of just get scrubbed from reality for a time.
On top of that, too, I mean, humans do need heroes, right? We do need people we can look up to and hold up as an example.
Oh, sorry, real quick.
Try to live up to.
Nemesis Bean writes, it says, I'm off to my other stream. Stay amazing, everyone. Nemesis, thank you. You as well. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good night.
Yeah, so, my whole view on it is, like, we do need heroes, right? We've seen what people grow up to be when they don't have heroes. They don't have a North Star to guide themselves by. So I absolutely do think, like, look, sometimes we do build people up to be larger than life because we want to try to live up to that larger than life behavior. And that's not a terrible thing. If anything, I think that's kind of a good thing. Sometimes you don't want to meet your heroes, but even the darker bits of Wyatt Earp still make me respect the hell out of the guy.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, I think it's I think it's like a compounding analogy of like shoot for the moon and you'll hit the stars, in the sense that like if you have this perfect ideal to look up to and you shoot for that and you miss, you hit the stars. But then at the same time, like if you go and find out how they got there, it turns out they were biting and scrapping on their way up too. Mm-hmm. And like I feel like that's the point of this story, but also like the full story. Like when we hear about the story of Hercules, there's the Disney version and then there's the actual myth. Like it's not like his trials were these easy 12 trials. They were actual tales of like fighting things nobody in the world with an army could fight, and he fought them alone and he grew past that. And it's like, yeah, I don't think he was saying like, oh, darn it, the snake bit me. Like the dude was cussing and biting up a storm on his way up. And then,
gosh golly darn it, a rattler got me. Oh boy.
Like, yeah. But at the same time, like, that's the idea of like, that's where you set the standard is like, yes, you shoot for that ideal, but also like, you don't want Disney to be your ideal. Like the Disney Hercules is a dork. If you're always running around yelling, gosh, golly, darn, damned it, somebody shot my house. Like, what?
Yeah, don't be Flanders.
You deserved it because you talk like that. Like, that's weird. Come on. So, like, that to me is like, that's the middle. Like, that there is the cartoon Hercules, and that's what it looks like in a fast, sweet, beautiful version. But as you grow up, you actually need to watch the real one. And that's, I think, what the Wyatt Earp story in this movie really is like, that's the same thing though. Even like, if you think about it, that's the child's journey on top of the hero's journey. Is like, it goes for your parents too. Like your parents are mostly Disneyland until one day they're, human.
Well, yeah. And I mean, I do think that, if we were to look at the United States as having created their own mythology, I definitely think that Wyatt Earp does fit that Jason of the Argonauts kind of archetype in American mythology, which is not a terrible thing at all. I think that's actually a really good thing that we had lawmen that were upstanding enough that people could say, I want to grow up to be like that. Yeah. I want to be a lawman that is more concerned about justice than anything else.
Yeah. What I think I love most about this film, though, is the fact that while it does have its Hollywood moments at a couple of occasions, not all of it is. And one of the big ones that stands out is the final gunfight in the end, right? Where he's standing in the middle of the open. Okay, that actually did happen, though. Like, it wasn't... It was the legendary account was that, yeah, it was basically like they was standing point blank and it was like the bullets missed, even though he was standing right there. And so on the one hand, Hollywood would typically take a story like that and go, well, people just aren't going to believe that. Like you hear the legend of Mad Jack Churchill, and one of the reasons that we don't have a Mad Jack Churchill movie, which we freaking should. Oh my God, I would watch a whole freaking series about him. Is because it's unrealistic. And then they're going to turn around and crank out a movie about a bunch of superheroes that get a bunch of power from radiation. I mean, come on. It's not that hard to believe. Like, I used to think that way too. Like, oh, this historical stuff is so unrealistic, people won't believe it. Then I went and did and lived some historical stuff, and I'm like, life really does have its weird, anomalous quirks.
I can do you one better. Just study the history of gun barrels.
Yep.
Like, it's mostly an accountability of projectile deformations and lack of rifling in the barrel. Like just look at World War I hit numbers. It was 94% misses across the entire battlefield on all sides. Nobody was hitting anything for any reason.
In fact, I think
just look at Call of Duty's.
Well,
Call of Duty. If you play Call of Duty, look at your accuracy. Suddenly, unrealistic becomes very realistic.
Actually, if you take a look, somebody put out the statistics of like lifetime to date that we can record of for shots versus misses. It's something like, for the entire history of humanity, something like 75% of shots miss. Right, like it's that real, ridiculously high number.
I can't think of the group that has had the most hits in a row on targets, but I feel like that's something we shouldn't discuss.
I can't remember. Right? I can't remember the guy's name, but the sniper in I think he was Ukraine or whatever. He was like, I'll have to look it up, but he's another sort of folklore hero that all of his stuff was verified, but he had like over 150 confirmed kills, and he survived like bombings, like literally had bombs. Yeah. Him. Another one that we could make a real kick-ass action story about. But no, they don't want to make it because it's not real.
Actually, there is a movie about him. It's called Enemy at the Gates, and it's fantastic.
Yes. So
I think you're thinking. I'll have to double check. I think you're thinking of someone else. I think we're thinking of two different people.
Lost Stars.
But
I think you're thinking of the Swedish, or not Swedish, Swiss.
I know who you guys are talking about. The Swedish dude.
White Death.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, John. White Death. That's the guy.
Okay.
Yes, that's another fantastic legend that was totally real and pretty much had all of his confirmed.
There's a few Swedish and like European, like French films about him, but like the thing about it in terms of America is like there was the Jude Law Enemy at the Gates. I just think that like none of the directors that would, like Spielberg, right? It was Spielberg that did the Normandy one.
Saving Private Ryan.
Private Ryan, yeah. So yeah, like Spielberg could do that, right, and make it a great movie. But like if you had like James Gunn take it, it would be the most boring thing with Deadpool.
James Gunn needs to do the Mad Jack Churchill movie.
Yeah, dude, would be
because that would be appropriate for Mad Jack's personality.
Or who's the dude in the late Renaissance? He was a knight who got his arm blown off by a cannon. Got arrested by the church. His friends got him off, and the first thing he did after getting paroled by the church was go and abduct a bishop and hold him for ransom. Like there are dudes in history that are like that.
Like I feel like that's a lot of the stories that like just like write themselves, like
yeah.
You guys need a blockbuster. Write some of these stories that were blockbuster. Like, look for the legends and then just make them real and film. And then from there, once you've got your pool of money again, like, pay for the crazy stuff while you still have people, making these ones go. So you always have pools, but you can also have some fun for the rest of us that actually like the riskier stuff.
Yeah.
Some of it flops, some of it doesn't, but like, don't make everything kind of risky or like for one political spectrum or the other. Make it for yourselves, and if you like it, like, then give it to us and we'll see if we like it.
Make it because you want to entertain people. Make it because you want to share an idea. Make it because...
Well, I mean, to the EPs, to the financiers, like, pay for the thing that makes you laugh. And if you think it's going to get obliterated in the media, like, remember the media is 10% of 50% of Twitter.
Oh, dude, if you want to give them something, like, remember that snakes on a plane made money.
That's right.
Right?
There's an
Like,
audience for everything.
Yeah, if snakes on a plane can make money,
honestly,
anything can.
Now, a Mad Jack Churchill movie directed by James Gunn, I think that's the correct course of action. I mean,
yeah, well, I mean, Mad Jack was real life Deadpool.
Right? Pretty much. I mean, yeah, just totally. I'm gonna storm the beach while playing my bagpipes and carry a sword.
The Irish dude from Captain America, the 1940s comic.
Yeah.
Like, that's Mad Jack Churchill.
A super light version, but okay.
Him as that dude. I feel like he could play the perfect Irish guy. I can't remember his name, but he plays a lot of bad guys.
All right, H. Marie, what did you think of Wyatt Earp? Let's get back to the topic at hand.
Well, I had never seen it, so I went into it only just watching the trailer like 30 seconds before we started the movie because Parker forgot to do that. But I actually really enjoyed it. I thought the writing was very well done. Because when I read books, I don't just read books. I can see everything going on in my head. I feel like I'm there. And this movie, honestly, it felt like I had immersed myself into what essentially the story was that they were telling. And I love the whole Wild West thing, especially since we live out here. And I loved it. I loved it. It was so good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No, it's like I said, it really does a good job of all the scenes. I thought were well put together too. I don't think there's a dull moment in this entire film.
It definitely reminds you that Kevin Costner also hasn't aged.
That's true.
Question mark? Like, is he up there with Keanu Reeves? Like, if you're just sending out good vibes or, not disrupting the world, do you just look the same forever?
Yeah, guys, if you want us to do a Hollywood is full of immortal vampires Rogue Council episode, let us know, because we're putting together a list.
Because they're everywhere, man. But also, like, look at Kevin Costner's, like, legacy. It's pretty good. He's done a lot of really good movies. And, like, I kind of... It's really sad to say, but he's almost baiting me into this new Flash movie. Just the fact that they're making him put on the Batman suit again. Or they're getting him to put on the Batman suit again. Because, like, one of my first and most, like, imprinted moments with Kevin Costner is Field of Dreams.
Wait a minute, I think you're mixing Kevin Costner and Michael Keaton up.
Michael Keaton, goddamn it, I am. Same thing though. Same thing goes. Michael Keaton, Kevin Costner and Michael Keaton, they're both the same dude. Like, I feel like they are the same typecast. But they both can play the same characters, and it's radically different takes all the time, but still technically they fit the same roles.
Yeah, I'll have what he's smoking.
But I do like Michael Keaton too. But also
they're both great actors. I just don't see what you're seeing, but that's okay, I guess. That's perfectly fine. All right, I think we've covered everything on Wyatt Earp at this point. I mean, unless there was any complaints, or Corio, you said you don't like westerns, so since you don't like westerns, give us your thoughts.
Okay, so I guess this is the best way to put it. I am not super huge on westerns. I just don't have a connection to the genre the way some other people do. I think they're fantastic. I think they can absolutely be fantastic movies. But just they're not what I'm looking for in a movie. I did like this. I did think it was solid. I personally felt like with us reviewing 1923, and this, I was getting a little westerned out. I was worried, I was going to start hearing, the acoustic guitar music, and my cat and my wife and my car were going to leave me or something. But like, I was getting to that kind of level. But honestly, look, it's a solid movie. It's a great biopic. It tries to portray it as honest, and I can't speak to the veracity of the honesty of it, but if you're this level of honest, where it's like supposedly absolutely the truth of it, and you're still this level of a good person, even with all the regular life stuff that gets thrown at you, you deserve a movie, right? You absolutely deserve a movie of your own. I think at this point I've only rated a Christmas special for myself. This dude deserves a movie.
Yeah, and I think what I really enjoyed most, too, now hearing your thoughts about it, was it starts about Wyatt Earp, but then by the end, it's more about his family and all the people that are in his life that make an impact. And I think that's what's really cool about it, is we get to follow along with his journey, but we also get to see that we get the full picture. And that's what I think really gives it. That's really what gives it its selling point. So if you're into history,
I think the best biopics set up the person's legacy for the future, and for that, it's the Earp family in this case.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, now it's time to get back into the theme of the holiday and continuing our Western trend. I promise there's sci-fi at the end of this tunnel. 1923 hit us with a filler episode of sorts. And, Corio, you seem to enjoy this, so why don't you go ahead and catch us up on what happened. Give us the play-by-play.
Right, so in this episode, we get all three of our main plot arcs touched on. We start with the native girl, who has met up with, I believe his name was Clint, and she's now getting rid of anything that could be tracing her back to the school. They're burning the clothes, they're putting it in the son's clothes so that she's masquerading as a boy to be able to hide more effectively. And they're talking, and you get a real sense of the almost identity crisis that the Native community was going through in that period of time, where they're kind of being forced in one direction, but it's not necessarily where they don't necessarily want to go, I guess is the weirdest way to put it. Like, it's an interesting piece that rings true for that time in history, and I thought that was very interesting. We then have our family, the Duttons of Yellowstone, coming to terms with the progress of technology and the march of time. Paved roads are being put in, right? Water supplies are being, dammed up, and a world of concrete is being built around. And then you have our great hunter on his way home with his bride. And yes, they did survive the ship capsizing, only to be in possibly the worst situation possible, on the top of a boat in the middle of the ocean with nobody around for ages, and the sharks are circling. And they do, thankfully, during the episode, get rescued and have probably, to me, most touching scenes involving those characters that we've gotten yet. The scene, the ring scene, which is all I'm going to spoil for it, was absolutely fantastic. The emotional state of all the characters involved was palpable. It felt genuine. It felt true to the situation. It warmed my heart. I believe I made the comment in the Discord about this episode cutting onions in the middle of that scene. And we were treated to a little bit of naughty profiles, and I'm not opposed to that. I'm not. I feel like anytime they want to show people in love expressing that love, I'm going to be okay with that overall.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be honest.
go ahead.
I every time it went to the boat scene, I looked away. Like, I have such a problem with the open ocean and just swimming in it, because like the worst, like this version of the story is the worst. Like, if you just were lost at sea and never came back, like, I don't have to hear about how like sharks nibbled at your toes and then your legs and then and you still survived. Like this is just like the most terrifying story, because like theoretically they could have just not survived, or one of them doesn't survive, or there is a shark attack, which is disgusting and terrifying. Like one of my biggest fears. And so like
I don't
this
know. I've done a
scene-
great white dive. It doesn't faze me anymore.
Well, no, it's just more the this is the most like unknown. Like I hoped that they were going to be saved, and I figured because of, plot lines and everything like that. But also, like, I kind of saw somebody getting hurt, something happening, the story taking a shift somewhere, And so every time the like music played and it panned in on the sea again, I was just tense. So then when it's like, and now they're in love and they're getting married and they're on a boat to Richmond, Virginia, like they are on a direct course to where they need to get out of the water. I was so like, I can breathe again. So I felt like the writing was superb on this one, because it was messing with me. Everything from art design to like music to like pacing, it was tough.
It definitely had a fear of the uncanny feel to all of the nautical adventures in this one.
Yeah, and John, I totally understand your fear. I have swam out in the open ocean next to a giant Coast Guard cutter, and even that, like, that was an experience in of itself. But I also had a rescue boat in case anything went wrong, and yeah, not exactly the same as being stranded. For me, that whole sequence was kind of like a horror film, because I was half expecting the ghost ship to come back at any point and just take him out.
I thought that's what the light was.
I know.
Like a weird reflection off the moon. I was terrified.
Yeah, that would have been bad. Even thinking about that.
It disappeared. I just thought that was the ship just coming past or something. And
yeah,
like,
in the dead of night, and the ghost ship comes back and kills him. Oh, that would have been rough. But they got saved, and it's so for me. I look at a movie like Wyatt Earp.
Look at the show's use of why guns are useful even on the ocean. Like, it was a signal.
He did it wrong. So if you're in a distress situation, you're supposed to do...
Was that the rule in 1924?
No, it probably wasn't. But I'm just saying, for future reference, don't go based off of these non-rules that didn't exist. For future reference, if you are in distress and you're in the middle of the ocean and all you have is a gun, typically 1-minute intervals. Not that anyone actually counts. It's like you're listening. Oh no, that was 57 seconds. They're not in trouble. We're good. We can keep going.
The goal is to preserve ammo, and if we start hearing it, we can start tracking it.
Yep.
Like zoning in as it gets. It's literally the hotter, warmer, or the warmer, cold game. In real life, like the more you shoot in 1-minute intervals, between 1 minute, how much quieter or louder did it get? And folks, this is an experienced radio operator in the United States Coast Guard giving you that advice. So it's 100% expert, real maritime advice.
Yep.
Listen to this man, ladies and gentlemen.
Also bring flares, wear your damn life jacket, or just don't go out on the water.
One that knows what he's talking about.
Exactly. No, and that's definitely what you do in that situation. And obviously, you want to keep shooting off, and it's in that situation, you're going to use your own discretion, but definitely don't waste your ammo.
Well, yeah, and know that like that like he's telling, like Parker's telling you that because that is actually the process according to the United States Coast Guard, and they made that process
Well,
because that's the
not
best way
not
to
just
preserve ammo while simultaneously still signaling a possible ship.
it's not just
And
the
so
Coast
like
Guard.
what he
It's
did was more about like I really got the vibe he was focused on the muzzle flash. Like
Probably.
that's what's going to signal them, and that's what Parker's saying is like an inexperienced sailor, an untrained sailor is going to do what he did, think about muzzle flash, but experienced sailors are trained to listen for the sound as well. That's not a sound you hear in the ocean.
Yeah, and trying to zone in like that, trying to get a sound ping is not easy, because depending on where you are and where you hear that, you're only getting like a general direction. And so that's why the 1 minute intervals or 30 to 45 second intervals is the smart thing, because yes, then as somebody starts hearing more, they can slowly find you. But just a
Real-time sonar
little maritime
above the
trivia
water.
thrown in there. So compared
Also,
to what
I think it's worth pointing out: don't shoot straight up, don't shoot straight down.
No, yeah,
Bullets
you want,
can
especially if
stick.
you're in the water, you kind of want to, yeah, definitely.
Well, and you might not actually hit the shark. But also, that was the worst thing about this was 100% traditional great white behavior, which is, oh, foreign object above me. Let me see if it's a threat. Bonk. It didn't do anything else, but all of my skin just was like, we're going to leave.
No, the reason it was hitting the bottom of the ship is because the captain's body was still floating down there.
Yep.
But even
They
then, it was
probably could smell it.
yeah, but it was only one bonk. Like there was no not worth the stress, so it just left, and it was one scene.
I thought there was like
the
3
most,
bonks.
Yeah, there were like 3 bonks.
Oh, was there? Okay, so 3 total bonks, but it typical predator behavior. Like, can I? I don't want to. I'm gonna go find food because I'm hungry. Like,
No, the food had already surrounded the boat.
that was the most but to me that's another example, maritime trivia, that's what sharks do. If there's a body in the water that it can attempt, it can smell but can't touch, it's going to bonk 3 or 4 times, don't panic, or it's going to start to know that it just needs to wait for you to leave. So if you sit still, don't move, don't do anything, it's going to get bored faster because it's on the hunt. That's why it even tested it, right? It's hungry. So this was a nature documentary, but also the scariest survival time in a story possible. So it was, for me, it was panic, but perfectly written and perfectly visualized. I would have peed my pants on that boat many times.
Yeah, no, that scene was very well done. I definitely felt the danger. If that was on a set, it was a very well composited and put together set. If it was done out in an actual body of water, it was still very convincing. Either way, the illusion sold me. I was there was visible discomfort on my face.
I was 100% uncomfortable for all the right reasons.
I have thalassophobia, and I was freaking out. So I was like, there's the open ocean below them. They don't know what's going on. All of a sudden, now there's all these bonks. There's these fish. I'm like, I'm good. I wade up to the water to right here. I have a hard time dunking my head, and that's it. Nope.
Yeah,
Avery, were you more scared before the sharks? Did the music before the shark scene feel more like the shark scene was gonna happen? Oh man, I thought for sure when he was like, I'm going down for supplies, that's when we were gonna meet him and we are gonna see his true macho punch a shark in the nose, full on Archer moment. But instead, nope, the music was just super tense and I was ready to die because I hate those scenes. I don't care about lakes. I've been on lakes a ton of times and I've heard all the ghost stories and stuff, and I do have a problem with depth. I do get scared of being underwater without the proper gear. But ocean, I went free diving in the ocean one time, and cliff jumping into the ocean one time, and I landed on a jellyfish, And like everybody else saw it except for me, because I have such a fear of heights that I don't look down. So when I go cliff jumping, I just go, I'm not a pussy, and I jump. And I landed right on a jellyfish, and like that for me just ruined the ocean. Like I get so scared of just anything that could happen, because one of the craziest possible things that could have happened to me. So now in movies, good writing just tells me like fingers are gonna get lost at least.
And you see, like, I
I'm
scuba
about
dive.
to.
Yeah. See, like, I scuba dive, and I go down deep enough that strange fish start offering you candy, right? Like I get down that deep. And
I want to do that because I know there's gear for like just your skin and stuff, but for me it's more just like the jellyfish thing messed me up. Like, no, wear the right gear, because I was swimming in the black something or other area where there's like fish that'll stab you.
the abyssal zone, or
I don't know if it's no, not the abyssal zone. It was right off the coast of the East China Sea in Japan.
okay.
But it was like black urchins, sea urchins,
Yeah.
black sea urchins that can like literally poison you. So we bought these shoes that were like extra thick, and like the one part of me that wasn't like protected was like my arms, because I'm like, I like my bare skin, and the jellyfish wrapped around my whole arms all the way up, my thighs, my ribs.
Well, he just wanted to give you a big hug, dude. I mean, you know.
Dude, he got jumped on.
Yeah, like,
I disrupted him, so like no shame to the jellyfish, but like I had to get peed on just in case.
all right, well, Petey, you've got a story.
Ocean scares me.
Yeah, no, I mentioned the swim call out in the middle of the ocean earlier. The first time I did that, I inadvertently choked out a jellyfish with my arm. I don't really know exactly what happened. It was my first time jumping in the water. I jumped off the deck of the ship, and it was a lot higher than I thought. And I don't know, after the words, I noticed that the sting had made it in such a way that it mirrored. So it was like my arm did get stuck around where it stung me. And it looked like I had heroin tracks for a good couple of weeks. Like, I even had my supervisors giving me a hard time. It's like, you do know that you're going to get in trouble when you go home, right? And I'm like, why? He goes, you seen your arm? And I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to tell him what happened. I'm going to choke out a jellyfish. He's like, really? You're going to go back to Idaho? And you're going to tell the people of Idaho that you choked out a jellyfish? There ain't no fish made of jelly. And I was like, you know, you're right. So, yeah. Yeah, the ocean does have a lot of scary things, and this scene did a great job of showing all those scary things, and that's really what it was a scary scene to watch. I don't necessarily want to watch it again, but well
that's
done.
What made it even worse is this scene did the least amount of showing. Like, it showed natural sharks and a natural shark encounter, and that was about it for the ocean. Like, it just made it even more scary to me. Like, even without the sharks, I was already terrified and done, and then with the little bit of shark time, I was like, you have to be just the most stoic human being in that scene to not rattle the sharks and give them reason to stay. And like you hear his soon-to-be wife tell him that, and she's like I cannot do this, and he's just like, we have to. And it was like his response that it was like, no, like that you either do it, or it just gets really bad and we don't know what happens next. And so like, and she just needed that, like, okay, so this is one of those times where we just say no. Like, feelings don't matter. You just are not a person. You are a stick on top of a upside down boat, and you sit still. And they did that, and it worked out for them. And I thought that was just just perfectly illustrated, both in the writing, in the characters' expressions, and just who they've been so far throughout. Like, I'm so enthralled by their story. Like I was saying earlier about like the heroes and stuff. Like, that's what I love about these shows is I'm I'm at the age where like I don't want to be following other people that are relatively my age making it anymore. Like I want to be blazing my own trail and start making it according to my name. And so this kind of storytelling and writing is a lot closer to what I feel like I'm experiencing mentally and emotionally. And it's, to me, it feels a lot more like a great movie does. Like all the movies from my childhood that made it feel like they were talking about me and the hero I could be and what I could grow up to be. Now this is like my adult version of that in those same feels and connections, and that's why I'm like really enjoying this follow along.
Yeah, I mean, for me, my takeaway from that whole scene is a lesson that is very hard to learn, which is sometimes the most important and best thing you can do is absolutely nothing.
Well said.
But you're still doing something, even when you do nothing.
Sure.
Anyway, yeah. So going back to Wyatt Earp for a second, let me put this episode into perspective for me. Wyatt Earp, I would gladly watch with my grandparents. I didn't feel that any of the sequences were awkward. I felt that everything, made sense because Wyatt Earp is a PG-13 movie, and I think it's a very well done PG-13 movie. All the sensual scenes are tasteful. All the violence is tasteful. This show handled the scene on the Dutton Ranch, I think, was perfect and well done. Where they had the window open and they're making noise and Harrison Ford finally goes, "We hear you," and you hear the window slam shut. It's like, okay, that was not bad. I really didn't care to see these other two, Alex and I can't even remember the guy's name off the top of my head. Spencer. We've already seen it. So to me, it's like, okay, we can work on with the implication here. We don't need to rehash what we've already. Oh, but they're married now, so it's different, I guess. That it just kept going. It was like, all right, yeah. So definitely a filler episode, and we're still going. And okay, now we're done. Fine. Oh no, wait, no, back on. Okay, now we're done. And that's just how it came off to me. And so it's like I like Wyatt Earp because it does those scenes fine with the implication without drawing it out. It gets the point across, and I think that's what I prefer in my cinema because, and it doesn't help with the rating system TVMA either because you have TVMA. One second, you have TVMA, which usually is supposed to list what you're supposed to get, but these days it just kind of feels like TVMA is, yeah, you might get some extra F words, or you're gonna get full on porn. Who knows? That's just me though.
Well, so
hold on, H. Marie has a thought.
Oh, sorry.
No, the episode was really good up until they basically were beating a dead horse. Like, okay, I get it. We saw them together once, okay, and then we saw them together again after they were married, okay. I didn't need 5 more, scenes of that and ending the show on that. I would have much preferred them ending on a possible cutscene with the native girl who now has to masquerade around as a boy to avoid getting caught. That's what I wanted to end on. I didn't need to end on seeing them doing it for the 5 millionth time. That's just, it was a little overdone. It was good at first, and then it was...
Nah, you know what? I'm changing my mind on this. I think we're gonna need at least one Spencer and Alex woo-woo scene at least every episode now at this point. Because I'm not convinced that it's actually happening, because we haven't seen it enough times. We need to see it more. So there better be just out of nowhere.
Look, I take that whole setup there as a cinematography way of showing how just full of joy they are to be alive at this point. When you consider how terrible things were, and now suddenly they're alive, they're on what looks like a cruise ship, and the captain's dropping off bottles of champagne. I mean, I'd be in a pretty damn good mood too. I'd probably want to celebrate life in the most physical way I could possibly manage too. And to me, I found those scenes... Okay, I understand why you would feel the length was a bit of an issue. But to me, I'm sitting going like... Phrasing, I know. But to me, I felt like it was an absolutely necessary celebration of life at that point. Like, We just got out of the most ridiculously terrifying and terrible situation we've ever gotten into. Let's remind ourselves why we're still alive. And let's live and truly, genuinely, honestly live. I am totally okay if we get an Alex and Dutton scene every time they face certain doom and somehow manage not to die.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I would say, like, my one complaint, Parker, that you're bringing about Wyatt Earp is that, like, it's a TV show versus a movie. And while I do agree that, like, it has been a little too many, what else is going on in 1923? There's no television show they can show off. None of the characters are musical artists making new music or guitars. Like, these people are supposed to be the most manly men of men. The one thing they're going to do in their like free time if they can.
I don't have a problem
And that's
with
kinda
anyone
like
doing it. I just don't want to constantly see it all the time.
You're right. I hear you. And that's what I mean though. Is like I really think Corione is like onto what they were going for. Is like there's not a whole lot of things we can show going on this boat, and like what's the most beautiful or the most accurate to our hero, like our character's journey so far, and like that's a sex scene, and I think it is, yeah, it is too much, but more along the lines of like if you're not into that in film already, like people really think one of the main things that sold Game of Thrones was the sex. But like more often than not, most of the YouTube commentators that I listen to go, like once you get past all the sex scenes, Game of Thrones is actually a well-written show. Like most people that like actually enjoy, like even us, like hear us going right into what most people are really thinking about all these sex scenes is like, yeah.
All right, you're right. I should point out, in all fairness and unbiased, if that's what you're into, you're gonna enjoy this show a little bit more than me. So I'll sell somebody on it if that's what they want, and that's all I do here is provide information. I'm just sharing my opinion. I'm not telling know. I'm just saying, like, look, I just prefer implication over porn at this point, but I guess that's just me. However, if you do like all of those sex scenes, go right ahead. You're gonna like this show.
So I don't know. I mean, look, and I respect your position too, right? I mean, I think there's a happy middle ground between, like 70s softcore and what we're getting here. I do think there is like a better position for it to all get to. I do get what the director was trying to show. I respect what the director was trying to show. I mean, for my taste, it didn't show enough, but that's my tastes, right? And my tastes are not necessarily reflective of everybody's. And I respect that. I think that the most important part of any scene involving romance, though, is authenticity. We have to believe that these characters are in love and are choosing to express it physically. Otherwise, if we don't believe that, the scene doesn't work and it doesn't sell, right? We don't get to that point. And for me, it sold me on it. For Petey, clearly it didn't quite hit the mark.
Well, so how about this, Corione? How about this counterpoint? How about instead we remained it a little bit more tasteful in the previous, scenes between these two people, and then save the big scene for the marriage. Thinking about that in my mind, I probably wouldn't actually be complaining right now. It's for me, it's just as H. Marie said,
because it's repetitive,
beating a dead cow. Okay, we get it. Couples in love have sex. That's not the problem. It's just maybe I don't want to constantly watch it or think about it all the time.
Fair enough.
Right, and I think that is actually a really good point to like did you guys watch this one while you guys were getting ready to fall asleep, or did you guys watch this one while you were eating lunch? like there was this hierarchy to film and like, or not film, but to TV shows where like, no, the TVMA was saved for like when you're sitting in bed watching like Lois and Peter do in Family Guy. There's a TV in their room, and that's where mom and dad watch TV, and they watch the TVMA TV. And I think that's like kind of the hard part about judging. Like as a writer, like if you've learned the formula for what sells in Hollywood, and what sold for 90 years, and now all of a sudden the rules are really changing for streaming. Like I think this is more an example of like a really good show making a misstep rather than like, and only a misstep for some, not even necessarily a point of comment. Like I wouldn't have even commented on it if you hadn't have brought it up, kind of thing. So like that's the kind of misstep it really feels like, is that it's just like, well, some people might be watching this during the day, so we should have more episodes that are okay for that time of like mindset. And that's hard to guess, you know. And also I doubt these people are hoping you're doing that. These people are hoping that you're gonna sit down and put this one on before bedtime and devote your last 2 hours of the day of attention to it, you know. And yeah, I think that's really what we're seeing here more than anything. Because like this show, like it's doing so many good things.
Oh yeah, I'm not. This to me is just the weakest episode so far, just for me. Would I still recommend this show to people? Of course. It's
the only reason I disagree is because this one made me feel the same terror I feel in every horror movie for 2 hours, but it made me jump from I'm not terrified at all. I'm watching a pleasant 1923 episode to like, they're in the ocean, they're going to die, the world's on fire, I am scared, to, all right, everything's cool, nothing's about the problem. Like, this was the worst acid trip episode in terms of fear jumping I've ever had. And I watched every scene. I didn't turn it off because of that fear. I zoned in more. Like, it was such a good mess with my emotions. So yeah, it was kind of filler, but it was it was thriller filler.
Oh,
I'm gonna give it that. Thriller filler.
John, you and I have to multiplay for casual filth the game Raft. That will be the greatest thing ever, because that scene, like that sequence of scenes, is the entire game of Raft.
I have heard about that. I watched the Game Grumps play Choo Choo Charlie, and I died so many times with them. Like, you could hear them getting ready. They would even announce it. They'd be like, is that the Charlie sound? Is that the Charlie sound? And I would just be jumping right next to him as I'm like watching this playthrough. I think that'd be hilarious.
It would be great.
Okay, I do have a question. Can someone please tell me why did she jump in the ocean and swim away from the boat?
Grab
I
the
don't
life
understand
raft, just in case they needed one last thing to hang on to.
What did she grab?
The life preserver.
Oh, because I was like, she was on the ship and then all of a sudden she jumped off into the ocean and he had to go. And I was like, I don't understand what she went after. So I must have just missed that.
That was probably one of the greatest demonstrations of what ocean drift is really like. Like when you see movies and they just put the sail down and you're like, how are they moving at all? That was what they were demonstrating. That buoy was right next to the boat if you climbed off and grabbed it real quick. So in her slide down to climb off, it moved. In the time she went to swim out to grab it, the boat moved away from her because she was accelerating her travel time. And you had to like do all of that math and ask that exact question. How did that happen? And it's like, mathematically, that's exactly what would have happened.
That's
actually
how well
can confirm.
Written.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
That's actually how a lot of people wind up buying it after an accident in the water.
Mm-hmm. Especially if they're like on a forward propelled ship. Like, that was a ship literally not moving with any propulsion. The ocean was just waving.
Mm-hmm. Yep, currents was taking, the current basically, she swam with it, which took her away, and it was really good scenes, and so
by the time she started screaming, she wasn't screaming until it was too hard to do it by herself because we know her character based on all of the great writing of her character development. Theoretically, she was way off course before she started screaming.
Yeah.
That was what it was trying to show. Like, that's when he said, he's like, all right, we have to hoof it and give it everything or we're going to drown right now. And then you see them do that and they barely make it. Like, that was such, like, that's what I mean by the tension was so good. Like, I was dying during that scene. There was no shark. The music was hyping up, but it was because I knew all those facts from my own water experience. And that's why my skin was jumping out of its skin, like, just done. It was bad.
No, it was really good scene. It was really good, for that sequence. So it's still a show I recommend people watch, and I'm still excited to see how this season concludes. I've thoroughly enjoyed 1923. Ford's been fantastic. Helen Mirren's just been fantastic. I iterated it once.
What? The break was to just help you get rid of Henry Ford in your mind. Like, he was taking his walk. Like, he did the pilots, and he was done. And this was his death, and now you have to go to non-Henry Ford.
Harrison
Ford. And I was nervous about that. And to see him actually looking like, nope, turns out he is as, like, rough and tough as they've been saying he is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and now the man has a purpose and a mission, and we'll see how that plays out, and that's what I'm excited to see.
And to see the wife, like, this, I think, is why some people really have a problem with feminism, is because they grew up with moms that resemble Helen Mirren. Like, no, my mom always put my dad in his place when he was being wrong. Like, she put Harrison Ford so hard in his place that he got back on the horse just to stretch his stitches. It was beautiful.
All right, so shall we head to space?
Yes, Corione, we can finally go to space. You and your stupid space shows, jeez. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, we're going to talk about one of the greatest Star Trek shows ever made, and one of the best episodes from the series, which just happens to align with the theme of the day in such a really cool way. Corione, you want to give the play-by-play for this one, or should I just pull up?
I think you should probably pull up the IMDb for this one.
I probably should have done that before I moved over to the scenes, but,
there is that piece.
I'm my own boss, so if I'm in the mood, I'll probably yell at myself in the mirror later tonight for not being so ready.
Okay,
or I just won't say anything.
I think I've got it.
I've got it right now. But thank you.
Make it up in my head. See if
I think we're gonna skip that. Thanks for your.
I just finished the episode and I really liked it.
Oh,
go for it.
Okay. A group of Ferengi are playing a game of Tonga with Dax. Pell, a new waiter in the bar, has a great idea to ensure the customers are always thirsty. Suddenly, Quark gets a message on subspace from Grand Nagus Zek. Zek has chosen him as the chief negotiator for the new business opportunities that will open up in the Gamma Quadrant. As his first task, he must negotiate with the Dosai to acquire 10,000 vats of Tullaberry wine. Zek believes the wine can be the key to opening the markets in the quadrant. He tries to convince Cisco and Kira to have a conference on DS9. Pell manages to put himself forward as assistant of Quark. He seems unusually devoted to Quark. Corione, you were hyped for this episode, so why don't you go ahead and give us
Real quick, I want to give my one-sentence synopsis that I actually came up with that was so much better, but mine was Quark goes on a quirky adventure.
Oh, we're just getting started, but that's pretty good.
So, yeah, look, this episode has so many wonderful little pieces in it, and this is an encapsulation of what the best sci-fi does. Because we're taking a look at an issue through the episode, we're taking a look at an issue of sexual politics. But we are doing it in such a way that it seems completely foreign to us. We have our own moralities of how we deal with life and everything else, and the Ferengi are very, very alien to us. But we can still see those allusions to our lives. And getting to see how that plays out. On top of that, We're getting some world building here. We're meeting the Dosai, right? From the Gamma Quadrant. We're spending more time with Grand Negasek, which is always a treat in my opinion, because Grand Negasek is just awesome. And, you know, I hope to one day aspire to levels of Dirty Old Man matched only by Grand Negasek. Because I mean that is the pinnacle right there. You know, and then we have the character of Pell. And Pell is a fantastic character study in itself. And we could probably sit down and dedicate an entire 2 hours to this character if we so chose. But we've seen characters similar to this play out in history before. But this one was done in a fantastic way in that we had an almost 12th night kind of moment in this, which I thought was fantastic, where Quark doesn't realize that he, spoiler alert for a 25-year-old series, he is actually a she, and she has fallen hopelessly in love with Quark. And he still thinks it's a dude hitting on him and has no idea what to do with that. And it's just a great little moment of fantastic confusion.
He thinks it's a dude hitting on him, has no idea what to do with that. Finds out it's a woman hitting on him, has no idea what to do with that.
Yeah. You know, but that's the fantastic part about Quark, right? He's so obsessed with the business, with the rules of acquisition, that he literally does not see the forest for the trees here. And that is a perfect little synopsis of what's going on within that. You also have Dax, who's our eyes, I want to say, into the Ferengi culture, because none of us have the blatant despise of Kira. We're just kind of curious, really, about what the Ferengi are up to and what they do. So Dax really gives us our point of view kind of character for what's going on in a lot of ways. And she makes some beautiful observations about, look, they're a lot of fun. They're great to hang out with. They're, hilarious screwballs that, I get to party with and play poker or space poker with every couple of nights. And I love that, right?
I think that's funny though. I think both Dax and Kira are us. Because I think some of the people watching the Ferengi for as long as they've known the Ferengi, they're like, these are just the sleaziest, most dirty people. Why would they get a main character on Deep Space Nine? Like, they've always been basically the anti-good. Like, they're not the bad guys, but they're definitely not the good guys. And they're totally willing to sell out Picard. They're totally willing to sell out everybody else. Why do they get to be a main character? And I think this was like
hold on, you said they're totally willing to sell out Picard? So wait, is Kurtzman a Ferengi?
Kurtzman is a Ferengi, confirmed. Done.
Well, I mean, as far as like I wouldn't doubt that the Ferengi were literally written as an ode to executive producers. But if anything, this episode is like the Milan of the Ferengi. Like, some of us are Kira, some of us are Dax, but the reality of the story is that, like, Pell is Poe. Like, she got into the position she's in because she needed to take care of herself, and she wasn't going to live in a world where men just literally dominated everything about her by the law, according to the law. And then she fell in love with a general within that law.
So if we are confirming that Kurtzman is a Ferengi, hey, Kurtzman, I've got the Latinum. Quit Star Trek.
There it is, right there. We will purchase all of the Star Trek the entire Star Trek IP will be transferred to the Writer brothers, because we've already got our showrunner, Cameron Pasha, picked out. We've already got Dictor Van Doomcock, the Roddenberry continuity specialist, to tell us why we're wrong on everything. I mean,
source of marketing.
we've already got a Star Trek team coming together here. We can make this happen, and we will give the fans the Star Trek that we deserve.
And wait a minute, if I'm putting up
And we can
Platinum,
do
I
it
get executive
PG-13,
producer credit?
i.e. our show.
Sorry, what'd you say, Corion?
I was saying, wait a minute, if I'm putting up the Latinum for this whole thing, do I get an executive producer credit?
You get an executive.
The only executive producer credit. On
Yeah,
this.
yeah, you're going to be the only executive producer, but we all know Cameron's running the show. Rende writes in, says, I don't know if they will sell it. They refuse to sell it to Seth MacFarlane. I completely agree, Rende. That's why I wrote my own book, which you can see over the shoulder of H. Marie there. I actually started that, writing that the year that
tie
Discovery
all of
came
this
out.
back to the first episode, or first part of our episode. Harry Potter, Hogwarts Legacy, the video game, just like STO Online, like
Star Trek
that-
Online?
yeah, sorry, ATM machine. The
Brought to you by the
idea
Department of
that like
Redundancy
these
Department.
universes are set in any sort of stone is the same amount of credibility that our universe is set in stone. Like, we the fans can bring this back, and we can do it appropriately. Like, the only thing that really needs to happen is for the executives and the people with money to go, meet the fans. Like, go to Comic-Con as a fan. Don't pretend like you own the studio. Don't pretend like you know what's going on or you know what your vision is. Just go listen. And if you hear a lot of mean things, so do all of us every day. It's called being a human. People are mean a lot. That's why a lot of us don't like going out into reality. Like, stop pretending like that's not a part of how life works.
Yep.
But then also listen to it. Maybe like when they're like, this show sucks. I really hate that they messed with this character's entire biography. Yeah, it was harsh at first, but then it was extremely insightful.
Yeah.
Because maybe you didn't pay people to read the biographies.
I had somebody even on Twitter, tell me that they weren't interested in my book because they thought it was stupid how the primary version's color coded. You know what I told them? I'm sorry it didn't work for you. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, lose my shit, call them a bunch of stupid names, say that they're wrong, because that's all I can do. All I can do is give my story to the world, give my ideas to the world, and everybody's got to decide for themselves. Whether you agree with me, disagree, it's okay. I'm not gonna, just don't go out of your way to make attacks personal, and we're good.
Here's a question for a creative. If you had the money to offer it in another color coding, would you?
It's also available in black and white. So, I mean...
So even then, see, there you go. You do offer in 2 color codes. And if you had the money, you'd probably offer in 3 or 4 because that colorblind people like different colors, and if they can't see black and red, it looks black and black or black and gray, and you respect that. That's the difference between you and Kurtzman. Kurtzman's not even willing to listen to the criticism, whereas your issue is I can't afford to show that criticism that it's wrong. You would.
I'm just happy to get feedback at all. That's really the worst thing. That's the worst thing any artist can truly get. It's not negative feedback. Negative feedback is still an acknowledgement. Negative feedback is someone saying,
a path forward.
I saw this, I didn't like it, or this you drew it looks like crap. It looks like a turd, and maybe it is a turd. I don't know. The point is, the worst thing you can do is put an idea out there and no one cares. And it's like, well, try again with the next one, I suppose. And that's why, and you're right, that's why the showrunners need to be more accepting of the fact that people aren't going to like your product, and that's okay. They're allowed to.
Accepting of it, because that's just part of the things you cannot change.
Right.
Stop pretending like you have the power to just win hearts and minds. Even America couldn't do it. We made a whole operation, Hearts and Minds, and we shot more than we won. And in that instance, that's what you're doing when you ignore your fans. When I say, go just pretend to be a fan, ask people all of the questions about why they hate your show and eat it. Just eat it, eat it, eat it. And then you can go, that's not what I wrote at all. But for some reason, that's not what you read. What I wrote is not what you read. So I need to fix my writing so that you can read what I was actually trying to say.
Conversely,
Because
I will say
we
this,
know that
though.
most of you are getting paid to do it again. So like, if we can't just, magic overhaul, put us in charge, then we ask you to do what we would do if we were you, which is listen to the people that like and don't like and find out what they like and don't like. Because what if you find out all the people that like your stuff only like it for the same reason they love that Khloe Kardashian changed her hair this month? It's pretty.
Conversely, though, too, I will say this. If you are a fan and you do want change, put your arguments together and make sure you've got solid ones. Because if one of these producers does ever show up and you happen to be there and they say, so why do you think Discovery isn't good? Give them constructive feedback. Okay? You can say,
nice,
look, I didn't like it. Yeah. You can be like, look, I didn't like it. Here's why. And make your points. Okay? And, at the very least, even if they don't take it, you can hold your head up high and say, hey, I made the effort. Right?
And you have to remember, like, writers don't learn immediately, but you bet your ass they read the comments and it infects their brains. So if the comments are actually...
Well, let's touch on that, actually, because
let me finish it real quick.
Okay.
Just to add to Corion's point about, like, getting your thoughts out there. Like, I say be nice or be professional, because you want change. You're seeking change. Like, there are certain times where it's like, I don't care if you're nice or not. They didn't deserve nice and they didn't deserve professional. Do what you feel is right in that moment. But in this instance, we still want Star Trek to continue to be produced, paid for by these $1 million production companies, but we want them to do it right. So that's why I say be nice or be professional. And in that instance, if you're gonna comment mean things, do it professionally, so that at the very least they can go, oh, at least they had justification for not liking that. At least they actually were an intelligent adult that didn't like this and not just a bot stirring up mean things. Because when you type the, wow, I can't believe they said this, everybody thinks that's a bot. Even if it was you that said that, nobody knows for sure, because you don't think that everybody else that already said that. That's why you took the time to type it. So if you're going to type anything, be constructive, and hopefully they read it. And if they don't, then don't bother typing anything. Like, if you don't think they're ever going to read it, then don't type anything in the first place.
Yeah.
But if you're going to type anything, be nice or be professional. That way the things we love still keep getting paid for.
Yeah. Me, I look at feedback. This is just my personal perspective and how I handle it. First of all, there's the garbage. The garbage are the people that tell you to kill yourself. The garbage is the, don't ever write another page again. Just the stuff that you're saying, John. The one-off answers that, to me, I'm like, you went out of your way to insult a stranger on their work, and you provided nothing of value. Why? That's where I leave it. And I don't even care if I get a real answer. I just call it out and I go, what have you achieved today?
Yeah, you can say that wasn't very nice. Why did you feel like saying it that way?
But the other thing is a lot of creatives get caught up in the positive feedback and they forget to consider that negative exists for a reason. Negative, I don't have a problem. If someone wants to tell me my story sucks, just tell me why. You can be as angry as you want, but I need stuff that I can work with, not you suck. You say I suck, great. Well, I'm aware I suck. Thank you.
Here's a perfect example with your writing. When Parker first sent it to me to proofread, I told him very plainly, like, a lot of things didn't flow appropriately. And then in the second proofread, he changed that. Like, that's why I say be professional. Like, you don't have to be nice about your criticism, but there's
you don't have to be an asshole either.
To criticize and actually achieve change that is progress.
Right. And I have no problem with negative feedback. I welcome it. I'm not going to improve if I don't listen to where I went wrong. And yes, I do also appreciate praise when I feel it's worthy. I'm actually very typically humbled by praise because I don't feel worthy ever, but that's just me. And you're right, John. You got to articulate yourself. If you really want to affect change, you have to present yourself in a way that people actually want to listen to you. And so that's why on this show, when we review Star Trek Picard Season 3, we are going to give it a fair shake, and we're going to give an honest feedback. Now, if there's stuff that pisses us off, we'll be expressive about it. We'll explain the stuff we don't like, and there's probably going to be things from what I hear. But we're also not going to sit here and become cheerleaders and say that it's the greatest thing ever and that we just don't know. If it is, you're going to get an honest opinion from us.
Yeah,
I can promise you honesty from every single one of us.
Yeah, like look at our opinion of 1923. Corion already said he's not a big Western fan. He's gushing over certain things. Like Parker's one of the more Western fans, and he's like, all right, too much sex. And Corion's like, no, I felt like that was tastefully done.
I have to sit through a Western. I want more boobies.
Well,
yeah, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And to me, like that's what you get from us is like, we're going to give you the PG-13 review. And, you know, to the Picard writers, to anybody and everybody listening, thank you. We really appreciate it. We're really glad you took the time to tune in and be a part of our show. And B, like, we can give you constructive criticism. We're human too. We're the ones intaking your media, and we're writing, and we understand the tragedy.
And there he goes. All right, well, the universe has spoken. John is done talking.
Here's what I'm going to say about Picard. Look, the Latinum's here, boys. You just got to earn it.
Well, and the thing I want to say about it too is I see a lot of people saying that, you know, if you go out and watch it and you like it, you know, you're supporting Kurtzman Trek, and that's half true. The thing for me is I'm not going to watch Picard, and even if it's the greatest Star Trek ever, which I've heard some early reviews, it's got potential, but it's not DS9. We'll just put it like that. And so I'm not expecting DS. I'm actually setting my expectations to lower than Discovery at this point because I want to try to actually enjoy the product.
Wait a minute, it's below Lower Decks? It's the lowest Lower Decks?
I guess you could.
Expectations?
Yeah, you could definitely say that. We're in the bowels of expectation here, almost about to cross over and orbit outside the keel. Even if it is really good, and we end up liking it, and we end up recommending it to people, it does not absolve the sins of Kurtzman Trek. It does not magically make Discovery watchable. I'm not going to go watch Discovery. I watched 2 seasons. I'm not touching that show again. I am done. I tried watching 3. What did we make it, H. Marie? 20 minutes, and we were just disgusted? Is bad. Strange
PTSD flashbacks from Discovery.
Strange New Worlds. Nick Jr. TOS, as I call it. I'm reluctant about season 2. The thing is, if Picard season 3 sets a new standard, that's going to be the new expectation going forward for shows. I'm not going to go back and think that, oh, I was wrong. Oh, Kurtzman Trek's great. No. That's what idiots do. This idiot is looking forward. I'm moving ahead. I'm looking at the next product. And so, yeah, okay, you're mad about Secret Hideout still keeping the IP. Well, the problem is we have 5 active Trek shows. It's not going away. And if you really want to boycott it that bad, go for it. I'm not going to stop you. It's not my place to tell you what to do. I don't tell people what to do on this show. I share my ideas. You take in my perspective. You convince yourself. That's how I operate. That's how we operate, typically. So, if we like it, just let me finish real quick and I'll give it to you. If we like it, it's going to be because we like it. If we promote it, it's going to be because we believe in it. But we also want to make perfectly clear to not just any other fans that dislike it or anyone else. We want to make sure that showrunners understand if you set a new standard, that's the standard, that's the expectation. You either meet that or you exceed it. There's not going to be if some of the issue I've seen in the community is people are freaking out about, oh, well, if this just means that the Kurtzman formula works. If they go back to the Kurtzman formula and it sucks, we'll tell you it sucks. We aren't going to become suck-ups for Picard. We aren't Paramount. We aren't paid by Paramount. And even if Paramount was footing the bill and we were sponsoring them in this show, they don't get to buy our loyalty. They don't get to buy our positive reviews. The Writer Brothers is not for sale.
I would be substantially louder if I was paid by Paramount. And what I just want to add to that is like, so when we started DS9, one of the first things that like you warned me about was seasons 1 and 2 aren't as good as how season 3 picks up and goes off. And here we are gushing still almost every episode. Like you guys, I think it's 3 total episodes you guys have been like, yeah, it's kind of a wash. Sorry we lost that one. But even then we've had creative, elaborate discussions on those issues and on why they were or were not a wash. That can't happen with Picard season 1 and 2. That can't happen with Discovery season 1 and 2. Like, or Discovery's on 3 or 4 right now.
I think they're supposed to release season 5. I don't really care because I'm not watching.
Goodness. So they're on way to 5. And so far, 1 through 4 are the ones where it's like, nah, you can skip those and just jump right in at 5. Hopefully, if by 5 you've all learned. Like that's the difference is like when I was pre-warned and all the audience was pre-warned, seasons 1 and 2 are a little bit like getting their stride. But once you get into season 3, you're going to really be along for the ride and have a good time. That's not been the case, though. Once we started, I was along for the ride. Like even again today, like I've been putting off watching the next episode until either yesterday or today is usually my schedule, Monday or Tuesday before the show. I'll sit down and watch the episodes that I'm supposed to watch. And DS9, I was like, I'm gonna press play on the next episode. And then awkwardly had to press pause and like pull out of it to go do something else to search something, and then just never went back because I remembered like, no, save it for next week. But like that's been every single time I press play on DS9. That has never once happened with Discovery or Picard because I pressed play at one point and I kept pressing play because I was busy doing other things and I watched as far as I watched, but I've never once gone back. And that's hard to say.
Now, I will say there are a couple of missteps in the episode, and like it isn't perfect, right? I do think Pell coming forward the way she did was a little unrealistic. I do think Quark not even considering his feelings was a little unrealistic. And I mean, there's the whole thing about the Ferengi trying to get in business with the Dominion, which is a shame because I don't think we're ever going to see the Dominion again.
I don't even know what is this freaking. What are we talking about? Elections now with the Dominion? What's this? They predicted voting machines with that kind of one-off line.
I feel like Quark is a Vulcan Ferengi. Like he has such a discipline to the rules that I actually do feel like there has been adequate character development that shows that he will easily gaff feeling for order, feeling for rules. And I think Parker illustrated it perfectly. Oh, a boy's coming on to me. Not my thing. Oh, a girl's coming on to me.
A girl wearing clothes is coming on to me. Not my thing.
Well, even more than that, it was like the way she came on him, because even with the boy coming on to me, he was like, I don't want to lose him as a friend. Like, not my thing, but also still my friend.
Yeah, but also stop.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I mean is I feel like this show has done just such a beautiful illustration of who Quark is like, I don't want to make out with you, but you're so good at the rules. Like, we still need to be a team. I'm not leaving you in the wind. Like, this is a good partnership, just not that partnership.
Well, I'm going to put
when
this
he found out
to
she
you.
was a girl, John, the rules said otherwise, and he was like, I want to, but I can't.
John, I'm going to put this to you. Quark is Quark's religion is the rules of acquisition. And he is a priest of those rules.
Well, I see
In
him
fact,
more
if
as a
we start
Vulcan.
looking at everybody, well, no, if we start looking at everybody in this series, we start seeing the themes of religion over and over and over again. Even in characters like Miles O'Brien, because his religion is the belief in the Federation.
And fixing shit. And suffering.
Well, yeah. I mean, no, like, to fix things, he must suffer.
We could start an O'Brien cult now that I think about it, especially for engineers.
Yeah, there we go.
I don't think O'Brien's religion is the fixing part. I think the fixing part is part of the Federation. Is stuff breaks. That's why we fixed it. That's why we know how to fix it. Is because it's inevitably not going to work, and we need to be ready to fix it. That's where all the Federation rules come from. Even General Order Number 1, which is about not breaking anything just by being observant.
Non-interference, which arguably, I don't even know if I actually agree with it entirely.
Not even non-interference. It's non-interference to the nth degree, because like they're saying, like, even showing our starships is a problem. Even letting them know that extraterrestrial life is definitely real is not okay.
Well,
And that is like, that's the ultimate self-control. Because
the
like
only way I can explain it, the non-interference rule, is to use I guess the best way to put it is consider the civilizations that haven't developed warp travel of their own like your friend's 21-year-old daughter, right? Technically, you could ask her out on a date, but it does make you a creep, right? That's how I kind of view it as, non-warp capable species. You could go down there and play God or play Savior or what have you, but it does make you creepy.
right, and
it does make you taking advantage of somebody else.
I feel like because Kurtzman is struggling so hard, I'm just gonna give him this one as like a perspective jumping off point. But like an entire series where the ship is constantly looking for rogue captains that keep breaking General Order Number 1. So every week is a new episode of a new captain trying to break General Order 1 with a different type of civilization. And the main characters are the people that arrest them.
Yeah. I think that it's good that the timing of Picard is lining up with the fact that we are essentially well into DS9 at this point. I mean, we're barely into season 2, but it'll, 1, make a nice palate cleanser for any episodes that don't land, but 2, it also, we can further, even like I said, if season 3 is an improvement and it does set a new standard, I'll be appreciative. But I think we're going to be able to say a lot more in continuing to review DS9 and say, this is the standard we want. Keep going. Keep raising your bars. Keep exceeding where you've been. Because with what we've started, it's just not working as a whole. And that's the problem that I have with some of the showrunners, is it's like Roddenberry would expect there to at least be one show that most of the fans could probably agree on as being good or watchable. And we don't have that yet. Maybe Picard Season 3 will get us to that point, but I don't even think this show is going to get that. That, I think, is the real goal, and I think we can definitely make that point clear by saying, yeah, okay, we're watching your current Star Trek. Now here's real Star Trek. Here's good Star Trek. Here's better Star Trek. Here's Star Trek you should try to become and then further exceed. And I mean, the DS9 model is, I think, the correct model for Star Trek as a whole. I think it's what Voyager fell short on, was trying to go back to Bad Guy of the Week, whereas DS9, we have Bad Guy of the Week plus overarching stories that do go on for more episodes at a time, as we've seen. But we don't get stuck in this, oh crap, I missed episode 20 out of, 200. And because I missed episode 20, I missed so many critical plot points that I'm lost on. I have no idea why I'm even watching this.
The Babylon 5 problem.
Good to know. So yeah, and that's probably why, the streaming model works for certain viewers, because some cases they dump the whole thing right away. Personally, I'd be more in favor of a hybrid model where it's like you dump half one day, you dump half the next, couple of days later. That way spoilers are mitigated. But regardless of how you're going to do a show, if you're doing Star Trek, DS9 is the standard. And I think Rules of Acquisition really hits that point home on how high those expectations should be as to what Star Trek should look like. So.
And the next one, Necessary Evil, we get to see Odo be a detective.
Didn't you say, Corione, that there was something in this particular episode with the Ferengi that we needed to pay attention to?
Yes, and I alluded to it already.
I must have missed it, because I was watching that episode, I was like, I wonder what part he's talking about. And I think I might have figured it out, but I'm not 100% sure.
PM me later, we'll discuss.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we are, of course, coming down to the last 7 minutes or so of tonight's show. Any final thoughts regarding this episode before we start closing plugs?
Well, I think this is the first episode where I really feel like we got, we've had some Ferengi episodes before now, but this is an episode that feels like the Ferengi episode has figured out what it wants to be. And if we get I think we on average get 1 or 2 Ferengi episodes a season, and they all hit at either this level quality or better. And it really is a tribute to the actors involved.
Yeah, we even get a Ferengi episode in the in Star Trek Online's season 8 of DS9, Victory is Life.
That was so good. That was the best moment of all time.
Yeah, that whole Victory is Life arc is the best arc that game has had. I would really appreciate if they would crank something out like that again, but we'll see. The Ferengi episodes are fantastic, and all the characters do play off each other. They're always such a great time. With that, who wants to plug something?
We've got the Rogue Council on Thursday, which we are going to be covering the Chronovisor. For those who are unaware of what the Chronovisor is, supposedly the Vatican has a machine that allows you to see events in history. What would they use it for? What would you use it for? Tune in. The council will reveal some. And as for that, otherwise, guys, I'm planning on trying to do a couple of theme months in the next little while for my channel. If you guys have a theme that you guys would like me to explore, pop culture movies that make the most relevance to that theme, feel free to reach me on Twitter at Corione, and I will take a look at your suggestions for a theme.
All right, that sounds good.
I think those are my plugs.
That sounds good. So we are starting a little something. We're going to try a new thing here, as suggested by Corione. So eventually, I do want to throw memberships together and get that going, but that's taking some time. One of those perks, of course, is Discord access. So if you can't get enough of us, and you can't wait every week or whenever I randomly stream at times, and you would like to chat with us, would like to hang out, share your life, whatever, please put a comment in the chat. Send us an email at writerbrothers@gmail.com, and we will consider an honorary membership. And you can hang out in our Discord and bullshit with us directly. Other than that, great discussion.
In fact, I'll even do one better. In your email, please include the phrase, "Go on and take my Latinum."
There you go. So reference your comment, go on and take my Latinum, and we'll get you in. And other than that, great discussion tonight, everybody. I think we managed. I'm very impressed that we're not super pressed against the clock. We managed to keep our discussion tight, and it definitely shows. And we appreciate all you guys who watched and commented. CC Karaoke, thanks for coming by. Arende, Nemesis of Eden, and yeah, that's everyone who made their presence known. We appreciate your guys' continued support. It really makes it all the worthwhile. I mean, we'd probably still show up even if we only ourselves watching, but even then, it's always nice to share our ideas with other people who want to hear them. We'll definitely never tell you what to think on this show. We'll never tell you what you're supposed to enjoy, not enjoy, unless it's illegal. Otherwise, we're always happy to share our ideas and perspective, and we're always welcome to new ideas and perspective, as long as, you know, they're respectful. Anyone else want to take the final word?
I'll take it. Well, as you guys heard, I'm super passionate about Hogwarts, and so I have decided to start streaming using my own Twitch. I don't have it pulled up, so I'm super unprepared. But I've thoroughly been enjoying it, so if you guys just want to sit and watch me play and, you know, not have to spend $75 or $60 on the game, you can come watch me play as a Hufflepuff. I will eventually do a playthrough of each house. So then that way we all get to see what all the common rooms look like if you guys haven't already. But it's a lot of fun, so you guys can come join me. And then we get to run around Hogwarts.
And I think, Corion, you were going to consider doing the same thing, too.
Yeah, I'm pretty much set on doing a Slytherin playthrough. Because, you know, sometimes it's fun to be the bad guy.
You and I think alike, because that's what I wanted to do with my Slytherin as well. Play a Slytherin.
And, you know, I'll probably just get back to that game eventually, but, yeah, we'll see.
What do we do for the last half hour? We listen to my son yell all power. I don't know. Shout out, y'all. The only reason I didn't take that last 3 minutes and the whole show as a whole, like, it's a little loud. But,
well, you know, we appreciate families. We just don't want to listen to them in the middle of our broadcast.
You and me both, brother. You and me both.
Good. I'm glad we agree.
I think that the thing that is most important was...
I'm Petey York with the Ryder Brothers. We'll see you when we see you. Have a good night. This has been a presentation of the Ryder Brothers Tuesday Night Live Show. The Ryder Brothers, restoring respect into discourse.